Hi, and welcome to my channel. My name is Janis. If you're new here, I'd love it if you subscribed and become part of this community. I've called this channel Me in the Mountains because that's where I am. In the mountains, I live way far away from civilization, up a road that you can't even drive up. It's a forest road, so it's way off in the mountains. And so I like to share on my channel here just words of advice or things that have come across my mind. And I hope you enjoy them. And today I want to talk about turning retro. Okay, so if you get ideas from that, please leave in the comment. That means something to everyone else. But anyway, I have 5 ideas around that. So turning retro, let me tell you my first idea. One is nostalgia. So I think there's been times in our lives as you've gone along that, you know, you've gone through phases in music or clothes or periods in your life that, you know, when you reflect back on are really fun. So I loved the music of the 80s and I wrote a lot of songs like that. A lot of you have never heard them. I loved the artist and the clothes and, you know, I think back on those times and obviously you look back at them and you just see like these pictures of what it was. But sometimes, you know, I can put on a few of those songs like, you know, might be U2 or who knows, like Bruce Springsteen or somebody from that area. It can bring me right back. And it kind of gives you some of that same energy you had back when you were younger and enjoying those periods in time. I also, this is my point of view. This is my number 2 one, but I think simple is good. My truck, for example, I have a very old 1998 Forest, we call it Forest, but it's a Toyota truck and it is simple. It's like heat, cold, you know, radio, wipers, simple. And you might have seen my cat, same way, simple. You know, sometimes I'll rent a car or something and I'll get in and I'll be like, I don't even know how to, you know, turn on anything. But some of the old days, you know, things were simpler and how they were created. And, you know, there wasn't as many distractions. You might have had a book instead of, you know, the World Web at your disposal. But I think that in retro would be like, okay, that some of the simple things could be good. And, you know, I try to bring a few of those things back into my life. And there's a lot of color there, I think. You know, like I used to record on analog tape and not digital, which was basically those big reels going around. And, you know, you couldn't move as fast. It took more time. You had to store everything. When you went to go mix a song, you had to, you know, cue the tape up and remember where everything was. And it was slower, but it was kind of romantic, you know? So simple is good. You know, and I think another thing to do is, you know, every now and then, it's okay to think back on those times and things that you went through and those periods in time, you know, hard or easy or fun. You know, you think back on the memories, and those give you strength. Like one of the first CDs I did was called Music of Hope, and I got to work with some celebrities like Paul McCartney, and I got to meet him twice at Abbey Road Recording Studio. And so I remember this story. I told it many times, but we were recording in the studio my song For You Alone with the London Symphony. And Mr. Sir Paul McCartney came in the room and everybody stopped and I was like, I'm not worthy. You know, he was just the nicest guy. And we started recording his song Nova that he had written for his first wife. And at the end of the session, the engineer, after Paul left, and by the way, Paul McCartney was so nice. After he had left, the engineer took me aside and said, you know, Tim, here at Abbey Road Recording Studio, none of the masters are saved except for the Beatles. So now that my song was on the same master reel, those are the big tapes, you know, the same master reel as Sir Paul McCartney, my song For You Alone made it in the Beatle vault. So anyway, those are just little stories you can tell yourself about, you can think back about on your life and, you know, just be like, wow, that was cool. That happened. And it can be hard times too. I conducted the Czech National Republic Orchestra and our first dress rehearsal, I totally messed up. There was this song that we were doing and there was a flugelhorn and an oboe and I was conducting the oboe and I went over to conduct the flugelhorn and I forgot to cut the oboe off and it kept playing and I had to let the whole orchestra go because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And so I went back to this place I was staying and I practiced. And anyway, we did the show. It was a symphony called Symphony Fantastique and we got through it. but I still think back on that and I get really nervous. So anyway, I think to go back into those memories is sometimes, you know, good just to remember who you are and what you've done. And I think that's really good. And you know, my fourth thing is when you go back to those memories, you go back without the worries. And that's the hardest thing, I think. You know, sometimes in life when you think, oh, I'm making a memory and it's so awesome, you're in this great place, or and you're like, but you still have all the worries. Like, I know the worries are there. So that's why when we look back on our, you know, some of those times that were so fun, they seem so idyllic because there were worries there, but we can't remember them. So, you know, looking back allows you to think back without worries. We just took our VW bus out to California and it was the best time and we were amazed, you know. But I remember before leaving on the trip, I thought, is this thing gonna make it? You know, it's like 50 years old. But now that it's done, I'm like, wow, I'd do it all again. That was so fun, you know. So those are those are interesting things, like the memories without the worries when we look back. And the last thing, you know, I think in nostalgia is keeping those things around us that makes us strong, you know. I think about that with my studio or my equipment or, you know, some of the things that I have in my life that are older that, you know, just make me happy. It might be like a musician might have a guitar they've played for, you know, all the years that they've been playing or piano or I've moved around a lot. So this now where I am here is like my first home almost. So so that's I've just had a lot of movement, but I think, you know, sometimes having a few of those things that you've had a whole time in your life, like hang on to those, you know, so that you can just feel the energy that those things have given you over time. Anyway, so those are my ideas about turning retro. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And I'm so happy you're here, and I hope you find something from these ideas. Okay, love you guys. Peace.